Today, the Statue of Liberty feels like a permanent geographic fact. It sits in New York Harbor with such absolute authority that it's hard to imagine the skyline without it. But in the 1870s, almost no one wanted it. The United States Congress refused to pay for it. The New York State Legislature blocked funding. Even the French government, who supposedly gave us the gift, officially distanced themselves from the project. If you stood on Bedloe's Island back then, you wouldn't see an iconic landmark. You would see crashing waves, empty dirt, and absolutely nothing else. The entire enterprise rested on the shoulders of one man, a French sculptor named Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi. He was obsessed with building the largest colossal monument in modern history, and he refused to let the idea die. But ambition doesn't pour concrete. Bartholdi had a concept, but he lacked the money to pay for it, and more importantly, the engineering to actually build it. Bartholdi chose copper for the statue's skin. It is a highly malleable metal, perfect for hammering out the intricate folds of a toga or the sharp rays of a crown. But it is notoriously weak when forced to support heavy loads. If you try to stack 150 feet of pure copper using traditional masonry methods, the physics simply fail. The sheer mass of the upper half crushes the lower half, and the entire hollow shell buckles under its own weight. Add to that the environment of New York Harbor. The site is a wind tunnel, constantly battered by high-velocity gales and severe Atlantic winter storms. Traditional sculpting techniques were useless here. To keep the copper from ripping itself apart, the builders needed an entirely new approach to structural engineering. Bartholdi recruited a brilliant bridge builder to solve the crisis. A decade before designing his famous tower in Paris, Gustave Eiffel took on the statue. Eiffel scrapped the idea of stacking the copper. Instead, he designed a massive central interior iron pylon, a flexible skeleton that would do all the heavy lifting. He then designed a complex web of armature. Thousands of individual iron straps reached out from that central spine to grip the copper skin. The outer layer essentially floats, suspended from the skeleton rather than bearing any structural load. This solved the environmental problem as well. The internal grid absorbs the kinetic energy of harbor winds, allowing the entire structure to sway, while the joints expand and contract to survive the intense summer heat. Eiffel's design worked. In Paris, the colossal pieces were finally assembled, proving the radical skeletal concept could hold its own weight. Eiffel's skeletal grid ensured the sculpture would function as a piece of resilient infrastructure for centuries. But the triumphs in France highlighted the failure in America. The statue was finished, but it sat in pieces because the United States still refused to pay for the massive stone pedestal required to hold it. The deadlock was finally broken by a newspaper publisher named Joseph Pulitzer. Pulitzer used his paper, The New York World, to launch a ruthless public shaming campaign. He attacked wealthy elites' greed, offering a simple promise. He would print the name of every single person who donated to the pedestal fund, no matter how small. The response was overwhelming. Nickels and dimes flooded in from schoolchildren, street sweepers, and factory workers. The working class fully funded the base. This massive surge of micro-donations effectively transferred ownership of the monument to the American public. In October 1886, the logistics and the finances were finally resolved, and the completed statue was officially inaugurated. When Bartholdi conceived the project, he had a very specific symbolic message in mind. He wanted to celebrate the alliance between France and the United States, but crucially, he wanted to honor the abolition of American slavery following the Civil War. He even built the physical evidence directly into the sculpture. Look closely at the base of the statue's feet, and you will see her stepping forward, breaking a heavy set of iron shackles. Yet, what a creator intends to say is rarely what a monument ends up meaning. The surrounding environment inevitably rewrites the story. 6 years after the dedication, the federal government opened a major immigration station right next door on Ellis Island. Millions of ships began pouring into the harbor. For the millions of families arriving at Ellis Island, the figure in the harbor represented a promise of safety, and their collective experience gave the statue its modern identity as a beacon for exiles. In 1903, this new identity was permanently set in bronze when a plaque was mounted inside the pedestal, featuring Emma Lazarus's poem about tired, poor, huddled masses. Visionaries and engineers can conquer the physical impossibility of building a colossal structure, but it is the people who walk past it every day that ultimately decide what it stands for.